The last stand of Leonidas and his 300 against the might of Persia spread a legend of Spartan bravery across the world. A peerless fighter, Leonidas sacrificed himself for Greek freedom. His defense at Thermopylae gave the Greeks the time and the inspiration to defend the massively superior Persian force that sought to overwhelm them. For over a decade, the Greeks had been fighting the Persians, who were determined to absorb them into their empire. Faced with Greek intransigence, the Persian great king Xerxes assembled the greatest army the ancient world had ever seen. In 480 BC, it crossed the Dardanelles on a bridge of boats, then swarmed along the coast towards the Greek heartland. Xerxes' progress seemed inexorable, Greek subjugation inevitable. 10 years or so earlier, Leonidas had succeeded to the throne of Sparta, a city-state in the area of the southeastern Peloponnese, known as Lacedaemonia, where toughness and endurance were the most respected values. There was only one career for a male Spartan: as a fighting machine. In an education system as ruthless as it was effective, Sparta raised men who belonged, as the Roman historian Plutarch said, entirely to their country and not to themselves. Sparta was frozen into an ancient constitution, laid down in the 7th century BC by the semi-legendary king Lycurgus. Innovation was a mortal offense, individualism mercilessly eradicated. The foreigners' access was discouraged, money was replaced with iron bars, meals were taken in common. Nothing could divide the Spartan fraternity. Sparta started to select the warriors from their birth. The Council of the Elders used to examine all the male babies and to remove the sickly and malformed ones by letting them die on the mountainside. The sturdy, destined to protect rather than burden the state, were sent back to their fathers to be reared by the nurses. Boys were taught only the skills needed in war. Education was of no importance, and music was valued insofar as it encouraged heroic thoughts. A city will be well fortified when it's surrounded by brave men, not by bricks, declared Lycurgus. It was said that the Delphic oracle had prophesied to Leonidas that only the sacrifice of a king descended from Hercules could save his city from destruction. When the representatives of the terrified Greek city-states met at Corinth to discuss Xerxes' advance, Leonidas volunteered to lead his men to head off the Persian at the only choke point left, the narrow pass of Thermopylae. It seemed an unwinnable battle from the start. With the Athenians setting sail to fight the Persian at sea, and the other city-state apparently resigned to their fate, Leonidas was given a force of no more than 7,000 Greeks to combat the vast Persian army. Even Sparta, occupied by its own ceremonial games and more focused on security, allowed its king just 300 soldiers. The laconic wit of the Lacedaemonians spread the legend of Spartan boldness across the world. Asked by Xerxes' envoy to order his army to lay down his arms, Leonidas replied, "Come and get them." His men were no less defiant. When the Persians threatened to let loose to so many arrows that the light of the sun would be covered, one Spartan commented, "So much the better, we will fight in the shades." At first, Xerxes was confident of victory, but as wave upon wave of Persians tried to force their way through the pass of the next day, they were cut down in their thousands. The oncoming Persians were forced to scale a wall of their fallen comrades, and then they found themselves in a death trap. After 3 days of hurling tens of thousands of men at the small band of Greeks, Xerxes withdrew to rethink. Had it not been for the action of one man, the Delphic oracle might have been proven false. But when a Greek traitor called Ephialtes showed a person's hidden path that led behind Greek lines, the fate of Leonidas was sealed. Leonidas sent away the bulk of his army. With 700 Thespians who chose to stay and 400 Thebans who deserted almost immediately, Leonidas and his 300 Spartans set themselves up as a rear guard to delay the Persian advance and protect the retreating Greeks. They knew they would die fighting. They fought with spears. When their spears shattered, they fought with swords. Once those were broken, they fought with teeth and hands until they fell. The historian Herodotus estimated that this tiny band inflicted losses of no less than 20,000 on the Persians. Leonidas' last stand inspired the Greeks to rally and fight for their freedom. Their subsequent victories over the Persians at sea, Salamis, and on land, Plataea, ensured that Xerxes was the first and last Persian sovereign to set foot on Greek soil. The suicidal bravery of the Spartans, so gloriously victorious in defeat, is commemorated and remembered over the centuries.